Hi, I am Jenny Wise, and today I sit down at my kitchen table in Franklin, Tennessee, with my two favorite people in the world, my own children, Brandon Black and Avery Black. And we talk about what it was like growing up with a mom who was obsessed with her phone and then didn't have a phone at all. So as you listen through the phases of their development and the time that they lived with me at home, notice that there are three very specific time periods. There was one where my kids got to grow up in a world where there weren't phones. I didn't even have a phone. Then all of a sudden, I had a phone while they were sort of in the middle years of growing up. And once they were in adolescence and in high school, that's when I got rid of my phone and radically changed my relationship with technology, specifically social media. So you'll get to hear what that was like for them, how they choose today to live out their relationship with their phones in particular. And I think you're going to enjoy their honest and kind and funny and fun take on life. If you stay tuned to the very end, we have a little audio time capsule for you of childhood magic. So I hope you wait. Good morning.
Good morning, Mama.
This is my dream interview. This is my dream day.
I'm so
to get to have something actually recorded with my own kids, my two favorite people on the whole planet.
Well,
just personally, that's a great deal of fun. But professionally, as far as the podcast goes and Mediatox, you all are the people everyone wants to hear from. After I sort of give my talk and I say what I've learned about the research and I say, and do these things, they're always like, what do your kids think? How did you do things with your kids? What are they doing now? Everybody wants to know about you all. And it's kind of like you're like the proof that's in the pudding. Like, did it matter? Like, do you have a good relationship with your kids? Do your kids have a good relationship with their phones? So let's start out just giving maybe a little introduction of yourself, what's going on in your life right now, and then we'll dive into the questions.
All right, let's see. What's going on in my life right now? Okay, well, I just turned 24.
Woo!
And I just moved back home to Franklin, Tennessee about 8 months ago. And from Santa Barbara. I was over there for school for a little bit, and then I came over here and have been working with autistic kids as a behavior technician, which I really enjoyed lots of parts of that. But I actually recently just finished up that job, and I'm about to start maybe working at a preschool. I just love working with kids, so I'm kind of in a little bit of a middle spot, figuring out what I want to do next, but those are kind of my updates, everything that's been going on with me.
And whatever the thing's going to be, it's going to be working with kids.
Yes,
for sure.
Something
That's good.
kid-related.
I'm Brandon Black, and what do I have going on right now? Mostly my day job is I work at Trader Joe's, which I really do believe is probably the best place in the country that you can have just like an hourly job. It's a blast. Then on top of that, I'm starting to pursue a life of being a public speaker, talking to young adults about making their lives harder, not easier, in order to overcome anxiety through the lens of living in my van to beat my OCD. So I've been pitching to a lot of libraries and schools, and I also do some acting on the side. I've been auditioning for a good amount of stuff recently, and it's exhausting.
Yeah, right. It's the you're making a living and making a life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and recognizing how satisfying. Well, in one way, it's actually really beneficial. Well, of course, it's beneficial, but even though you're not making money, putting effort into the thing that's not making you money, but is what you want to creatively pursue, and actually feeling the satisfaction of pursuing that thing without making any money off of it, and being like, oh, thank God, this feeling that people talk about of fulfillment actually exists.
Real. It's
real. That's so true.
And then you get spoiled, though. And once you have that feeling, you're like, I never want to do any kind of work that does not feel like that anymore. Okay, so these questions were provided by a friend of mine who's a journalist, who's also going to be on this show later on.
ChatGPT.
My best friend, rock.
No, it wasn't Chad. She made these. She wrote these herself.
She
No,
did.
the friend wrote them.
Friend wrote them. So the first question she wants to know is, how is your relationship with your phone today? And how did it evolve over time?
I feel like my relationship with my phone is complicated because growing up, we had really strict rules around it all the time. Like, we were allowed to have social media, but whenever my mom would see us scrolling on our phone, she'd be like, hey, time to empty the dishwasher. It was like very much a like training of like, if you're ever gonna like just scroll, you're gonna have to do a responsibility. So if you don't want to do chores, then don't do it. So I feel like I really did not spend a ton of time on my phone in comparison to other people our age growing up. And then I feel like once I was on my own, it was almost like when, I don't know, I remember growing up, people would talk about like when they would leave the home and their mom wasn't telling them what to eat anymore. And then they would eat like an entire box of like Cheez-Its. That's kind of how I felt. Yeah, it's always
Cheez-Its or
They're so
Jell-O.
good.
They're so good.
Jell-O?
Oh,
okay.
really? People veg on Jell-O.
One of my friends, it was Play-Doh.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You know,
always
you'd like
think
get a
about
little
that.
bite. You're like, when I'm on my own, I'm going to eat this whole thing.
When I was younger, my dream was to eat a whole block of cheese. I was like, that's the one thing that mom is holding me back from doing.
All these other things, I can really see the benefits except for in this one spot.
This one. So I don't know. I feel like I kind of was like so excited to have my freedom on my phone of like, oh yay, I can actually sit and do this for a while.
As long as I want. The dishes never have to be done ever.
Just stare at this screen and move it with my
So
finger
fun.
forever. My house will smell like a pigsty.
So I don't know.
I'll show her.
Cheese everywhere.
The place will be built of cheese, actually. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like now one of the things that I feel like is really different with me than a lot of people my age, especially when I was in high school and then in college, is just not being on my phone around other people. I feel like that is like one of the best things because it is so hard to be around people who are on their phones. Like, I'm always shocked at how many times I used to like go out to coffee with someone. They would just be on Instagram the whole time. And it was like,
this is fun.
Wow, this is a really good time. I think maybe you should be in your bed right now. So I don't know. I feel like that's one of the biggest things that I got out of it.
Thanks for getting out of your jammies for me.
Oh, it's so nice of you.
I don't think that I ever went through a phase like that. And I feel like most people, from what I've observed, have, you know, if it's not Instagram, it's like TikTok or even like a dating app. I don't know. It's people are just so obsessed with, and if they have no personal boundaries around it, then it is like an addiction. It's like you can't have relationships anymore. I mean, there were lots of friends that I had a really hard time like continuing being friends with because there was just nothing, we couldn't continue having a relationship if you're on your phone the whole time. Mm-hmm. So, but now I feel like I am constantly setting boundaries with my phone. Like, I still have social medias, but I delete them often, and I really am never on them except for like during specific times, like before bed, which also isn't good. But I feel like there's a lot of things that I learned from when I was younger that have carried over. I guess more just being really aware of how it makes me feel and getting off of it when I do feel, you know, uncomfortable, and also realizing how much it does get in the way of a lot of productivity too. So I don't know. I feel like I have a little bit of like a mindful like approach to it, which I think should be better. Like I growing up with my mom, I know that it's not good for me, but I still am kind of in that place of like, oh, it's so fun.
You're enjoying it.
Yeah. So
which is a different phase too. Like if you're getting something good from it, I mean, you have an ability to weigh, I'm enjoying this, to it feels bad.
Right.
So can you say how you know when that is? What happens
I
when
think
it crosses over?
Big part, I noticed that, like, especially if I do it earlier in the day. I mean, in a lot of ways, it's kind of like alcohol. It's like if you do it, like, right when you wake up, then you're not going to want to do anything the rest of the day. that's really how it feels. So I've really figured that one out. Like, I'm going to have a really hard day if I start out my day on my phone. And I also think, like, if sometimes I really start to feel very anxious, especially if I've spent like longer than an hour on it, I'll like, my heart will actually start like racing and I'll want to cry. So I don't know. It is like a very physical experience.
I've experienced the same thing for sure.
Which is very interesting. And I mean, Mom talks a lot about it not being just about the content, which is, I think, really significant. I don't think that's a thing that a lot of people are talking about. People focus a lot on like, oh,
is it good content? Is it bad
content?
Yes.
And, you know, from what Mom talks about, like, it doesn't matter. And I think that is really true. I'll be learning about like history facts and then I'm like, so
history's terrifying.
History's terrifying.
Well, you know, if you really get into it.
And I think about, especially from a health perspective, this has been something that has kind of been freaking me out a lot, is like, you know, the more that you look at a certain type of content, especially on TikTok, it starts to feed you more of it. So then you really have this experience, I'm especially assuming for people who are like hypochondriacs, where it's like one person says that, for me, it's melanoma. That's what everybody's talking about. But it's like, if one person says they have melanoma, and then suddenly your entire page is everybody saying they have melanoma, in your brain it's like, everybody has melanoma.
Wow.
But that's only because your TikTok's feeding you every person who's ever posted about having melanoma.
It's wild.
Yeah,
it's absolutely
it's a really
wild.
crazy experience.
But it's also like, why would that be the thing? It's like, of all the things you're watching, the melanoma one's the one that goes to the front of the line.
Right.
That's crazy. Why?
crazy.
Who wants to watch more videos on melanoma and not like something nice?
Right.
Yeah, what about you?
Or not even
Graham?
just anything remotely more interesting than melanoma.
Right. And then why, I was telling a group yesterday that we were talking about the difference between ethical technology and predatorial technology. And somebody was saying, oh, so this is sometimes good and this is sometimes bad. And I was like, you can tell the difference because you can stop watching ethical media. And like ethical media has a start and a stop. Like, I saw that whole YouTube video. I heard that whole story. I listened to that. Predatorial media loops and loops and loops. And you're like, why am I still listening to this? Because you never got, there was no off-ramp.
And I think what has been really fascinating.
There's no off-ramp to melanoma, you guys.
No off-ramp to melanoma.
Get checked today.
This is kind of... This is kind of going in like a slightly different direction, but I also think like working with kids and seeing the types of things that they get really hooked on, it doesn't even matter if it's content. Some of it is just the fact that it's a light up screen that you have control over. Like, I've seen kids that are just typing. They're just typing. And that is like really, really addictive. Like, they can't get off.
It's a very satisfying little
Repetitive.
click clack.
It is,
Which is reminding me of the typing library friend that danced on the keyboard.
Oh my goodness, yes. I forgot about that. Typing is addictive.
It can be.
And I would imagine for a little kid too, that's like, you have this big sense of control of like...
Well, and that's, I mean, obviously I've learned tons about you, but and there's going to be a lot more conversations and podcasts for parents specifically. But one of the things you taught me about was buying old computer keyboards at Goodwill, and that having those for toddlers, that's such a fun, satisfying, sensorial experience that's not a phone.
Yeah, it's a good toy.
It's a good one.
I guess, is it my turn?
Bran, how's your relationship with your phone today? How did it evolve over time?
My relationship with my phone. Well, I did want to say, I have a coworker who I was talking to about this a few weeks back, and he was talking about how his TikTok algorithm got so screwed up and dark so fast, and it was like, you know, when he was on TikTok, it was before bed. He was like, I'd go to bed just with like the darkest, most awful thing in my brain, and he didn't quit TikTok or anything, but like he deleted his TikTok and then made a new account. That way his algorithm could start over, because he was like, I think I just got trapped. Like, I don't know
how to get out.
I can't, it's not going to let me out of this. But my relationship with my phone is, I would say, probably similar to Avery's, except I don't have any social media. I deleted all of mine, most of mine during the pandemic. And then a couple years later, re-downloaded Instagram, so when I lived in my van, I could post about it. And then once I was done living in my van, I deleted it again because I just didn't like it at all. I don't like having additional reasons to have to go on my phone. I hate my phone. There is an episode of the Smartless podcast I don't have to describe. It's the most popular podcast, I think, on the internet. But Will Ferrell talks about...
Before this episode
Well, obviously, this is when it all changes. But no, Will Ferrell was talking about how his son was on his phone in the car, and so he just took his phone and threw it out the window of their moving vehicle. And I was like, I think that's what everyone wants to do.
So true.
And I think people who do love their phones and say they love TikTok and say they love their Instagram, I think if everyone else got rid of their phones, you wouldn't want it anymore.
100%.
The only reason you think you want it is because everyone has it.
Yeah.
Most people I talk to are like, yeah, if everyone else got rid of their phone, I would get rid of mine also. And no one doesn't want like a phone. People want to be able to talk to people.
Right.
And connect with people. But the social media aspect and the everything with you all of the time aspect, people don't seem to want. I certainly don't at all.
No.
I've actually recently decided to, Avery's wonderful boyfriend got me an alarm clock for my room, and so I have a nice digital alarm clock, and then I have, instead of my phone being my sound machine, I now have an air purifier, and so I just have that in my room, and so I have my alarm clock and my air purifier, and I don't have to have my phone in my room ever, actually, anymore. I just try to keep my phone out of my room always. I recently re-downloaded X, formerly known as Twitter, because, I don't know, just everything that's been going on in the world has been so fascinating. And even when you are reading things that are things you agree with or quote-unquote on your side, I had it for like 3 days, and it's the way people talk, it's the way people talk and interact that is so gross. It's even if everything you read is exactly something that you are in line with in your views, the way they talk is so disgusting and immature and stupid that you just like I couldn't be on it.
Really?
It was awful. It was so awful.
Well, it makes me think the idea of a platform, right? That's what we call it. And there's something about the platform that it kind of invites a level of superiority. Whatever my opinion is.
It's so difficult. It's so difficult to curate any social media feed. To the point where I think it is impossible. There's no point in trying to curate a social media feed, so I just deleted it because I hate it.
Did I tell you about this was on TikTok. It was National Women's Day.
No.
And Disney had posted a video of like princesses. It was just a bunch of princesses over the years, or not even just princesses, but any female character. And it was like, happy like National Women's Day. And then someone in the comments was like, happy National Women's Day to every woman except for ones that voted for Trump because you're not a real woman. And then everyone was like responding to that and was like, oh, so you only support women if they support the person that you voted for, whatever. And it got so intense. Like everybody was getting so mean to each other. And I thought it was just so funny because it's like
Disney princesses.
The actual video is just like a still photo of Sleeping Beauty or whatever the heck.
Like, how did we get here?
Yeah, I guess it's kind of it's a weapon, right? It's everything can be used to defend or protect your side. Well, and it also really gets into your head that the world is such a combative place. And if, the more time that you're in the spaces that it's combative, the less time you're in a world where people are, just having conversations or even arguments and debates, the more it makes the world seem like a place you don't want to live in. So you get back on your screens.
And it happens so fast. I think that's what really is blowing my mind, because last night I spent a long time on TikTok. And
that's why her eyes aren't moving anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And it was really awful. Like, there wasn't anything specific that was bad about it, but like I felt guilty afterwards, like I had like killed someone.
And who it was yourself.
And it was me.
Unalived.
And I'm sorry, unalived.
Or as friends, I had some friends who were talking yesterday, just replacing it with canceled.
I
felt like I canceled someone.
That's really funny.
Canceled myself.
Yeah, exactly.
Got really dark.
But it really did, like, I don't remember where I was going with this. Now
you felt really guilty after.
Yeah, I felt guilty afterwards, and it so quickly made me feel very hopeless about everything. There's a lot of, because I'm looking for a job, my entire feed was about melanoma, of course.
Looking for a job, make sure to find out if you have melanoma
first.
Because once you get a job, you're not going to have any time to look for melanoma.
So
Take
then
care of it
everybody's
now.
talking about how bad the job market is and like just how awful it is and how nobody's making enough money and like you just can't get work-life balance anywhere. And it was just so discouraging. It made me not want to like do anything. Like, why even try to get a job if you can't even, if there's no hope whatsoever? And once you hear enough of those, like when you're just being flooded with like, you know, an hour of this, you're like, oh, wow, this really is exactly how the world is. And even when they are, you know, real concerns that people are talking about, we're not supposed to hear it that long, you know, from that many people.
I mean, what's the stat about how much information we're consuming in a day? It's like 174 newspapers worth of information in a day that each one of us is consuming.
Wow.
Yeah,
I don't want that.
Well,
but I could do it. Like that's the thing is my brain
Yeah,
wants
you
it.
could.
Because I do want to mention, because earlier I talked about everything so negatively and like it's just a problem other people have. The reason I hate my phone is because of how it makes because I can't I love information so much and I want more information constantly. That's why I hate it. It's not just because I feel like other people are being dumb on the internet.
You know, each of you, you know, Brandon, you have this information journalist side of you that is just insatiable and has always been insatiable. When you were little, I would go to the library and find any topic that you liked and get every single book of that and just put it in your room because there was like no way I could keep enough information available for you. But then Avery, you're like the queen of research. Like you love putting together different ideas or wondering if somebody's ever researched this. So I've always felt that both of you have done such great things with the internet and even on social media. I haven't, at least as your mom, when you were living at home, I didn't have any experience of, oh, they're getting in your head or even they're making you feel left out. Like I really feel like you guys had positive experiences of social media. Like you were doing good things on it and you were using the internet in really smart ways. And I'm really thankful for that, for your own well-being, but also because that's what made me learn, oh, this isn't just about content. Because I'm also the same way. I loved when Instagram and Facebook first came out, except for me, it's being connected with everybody and knowing what's going on with everyone and being able to create stuff to put out there. And before I got rid of my phone, which was, I think, 2015 or 16, whenever we moved to the apartment, I was listening to a book or a podcast or creating something for social media or posting on other people's every second I could get. And I loved it. Like it was really a great thing. But I was so exhausted and like every day felt so packed and overwhelming, and I was like just trying to get to the end of the day. And that's when I realized, like, oh my gosh, you had 2 years left at home, you had 4 years left at home, and I was like, I'm just rushing to when they leave home, and I don't want to have been so busy. I just saw it as work and adulting. I had no idea it had anything to do with my phone. So I really wanted to get reconnected to just like that base level. What I talk about a lot is my nervous system just not being on hyper alert all the time, because of course when you have work in your pocket 24/7, you're going to be high, you know, on edge. And so when I first got off my phone, I thought it would be lovely to be like listening to an audiobook while I was doing laundry. And I found that my head had so many voices and opinions in it. And I had heard so many recordings of actual other people's voices that it almost made me feel crazy. Like I need silence in my head. I want silence in my head. And that was, at this point, I think it was 9 years ago. And I just started listening to audiobooks again. Like I only listen to one podcast. I follow one blog. And I just started listening to audiobooks because I had to get my head clear of everybody else's voice. and hear it. I didn't even want to hear my own. I hadn't even gotten that far. I just didn't want to hear everything.
Yeah.
I totally relate to that. I feel like I constantly have so much happening in my head. And I was noticing it last night because I had been on my phone before bed, that it was really hard. Like, it was like I had all these voices and all these songs like overlapping. And then it's like your brain is just so overstimulated. And I think I have also noticed, like, working with autistic kids, I feel like, you know, there's a lot of like scripting, which is where some people will, you know, be saying things that they've heard or maybe things that they like the sound of. And I noticed it with some of the kids that I was working with, where, like, you know, we'll watch a show or, you know, listen to a song or whatever. And then right afterwards, they're saying the exact things that were happening in the show, just over and over again. Like, they were very caught in that story still. And I could see it in their face too. Like, okay, we're gonna have to take a few minutes before we're ready to do any sort of work, because they're still watching the show in their head. And I think that's what everybody experiences. Just a lot of people might not
aren't
be
actually
like showing
saying
it.
it.
Yeah, saying it out loud. But that's exactly how it feels in my head. Like, I could totally relate to that of like, yeah, you just have a lot, your brain has to process it and make it move through you before you can move on to the next thing.
Well, it makes me think about how I can tell a good actor, because when they're saying a script, their eyes are moving around the way that when we talk normally, our eyes are looking around because we're looking in our brain for the next thing to say. But when we say something memorized, naturally, we'll stare straight ahead because you're going to this one spot. You just stare when because you're accessing that memorized information. And which I talk about a lot on phones is people's eyes stop moving. And so that's like a really good for yourself to be like, okay, when I'm just staring, I'm not in the full experience of my brain.
Right.
I'm stuck on this one path.
You're still processing it. Yeah.
Man. I mean, I've definitely had moments of thinking about this recently, just when I've been working, where I'll be on my phone during like my 10-minute break. And then when I go back to work and I'm putting something in the freezer or whatever, like I'll all of a sudden realize I was just saying something to myself, or like I like something that I just zoned out, and like whatever I had been watching on my phone wormed its way into my head, and I have to actually
Get it out.
I have to get it out. But then I recognize that I, did the same thing that you're saying, even with your autistic kids, where it's like, oh, I actually just, I did the
Scripted
exact
something.
same thing. Yeah.
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 Well, okay, so this is I'll have to think of this answer for myself too. But in the addiction world, they talk about like a red flag, like where's your red flag, where's your green flag? What is maybe when you either has been in the past your lowest moment with the phone that you've been like, oh, there's something needs to change, or how do you know in yourself when like this is not what I want? Unfortunately, the way humans seem to be made, we seem to have something terrible happening to make something better happen. If it's just okay or not too terribly bad, we'll usually continue that behavior. So what is your like, okay, no. What is your bottom line not allowed? I know I have to take this off my phone, or I need a day without my phone. How does that show up for you?
Mine was, this is the closest example I have recently. I was on my computer a couple nights ago, and I was scrolling through Reddit comments in the comment section of a debate, and I realized that it had been like 50 minutes, and I had barely even processed that it had been 50 minutes. And everything I was reading was just in circles, and I couldn't stop. Like, I just kept scrolling down, and even in my head, I could hear, like, my inner monologue going, none of this is new, none of this is good information, you're not learning anything, you need to stop reading this. And I just kept going. Like, it was like I was a robot. And when that happens, I just slam my computer shut. And typically my brain goes to, oh, I need to not be on anything tomorrow at all. I need to let my brain detox from this for 24 hours, which doesn't always work, but that is definitely a motivating factor.
Nice.
Yeah, I feel like that's super similar for me too. Like, it is very disturbing and it happens all the time for me, where I will have the thought, like, oh, I need to be done. I really want to be done. Like, this isn't fun anymore. I feel very uncomfortable.
But you notice your body continuing to do it anyway, and
it's
that's
almost
weird.
like you have to hit like an override button, because you will just keep going until you have this like big moment of like I a lot of times will actually have like and we'll have to like throw my phone across the room.
It's almost like your body's gone so long without taking in enough oxygen that it has a panic moment, that it has to take in a huge amount of air to compensate. And then you're like, you have just enough access to your own consciousness and choice to get it out.
And I do think too, like a lot of like what happened with me last night, when I do have like a really big like veg out moment, and then I feel really icky. And I really do think there's so much comparison between like alcohol and drugs, because it does remind me a lot of alcohol. It's so fun when you're on it, and then when you're off of it, it's like, ugh, I feel so gross. I don't want to do that again. But then you start to crave it again. It's very interesting.
Fun. Well, I obviously tell stories about both of you all the time, but some of my lowest points with social media were completely not my own awareness, but your guys' awareness. So like I said, I've never really been much of a consumer. I love creating the thing, taking the picture, putting the quote to it, having the idea. Like, I love, 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 love doing that. And so one of my retroactively, low points with my phone was when you were you about in 5th grade? You were kind of almost my parent in that time.
Oh.
Like, I was on my phone all the time. I had obviously the cutest kids in the entire world. I had all these opportunities to share your cute stories and your cute video and your that cute mom moment, whatever. And will you talk a little bit about your feelings about me sharing your stories, your quotes, your whatever? I feel like I'm going to make a really big deal out of this, because it's the thing that's the hardest for me to see on social media, is when parents use their kids for their own feed, basically. And the reason it's hit so close to home is because I did that. I mean, I basically was one of the first people ever doing it. I was one of the first moms. I was the first mom I knew that was on Facebook and Instagram. Like, that was a college student thing. And I was like, well, I can get on here with my cute kids too. So I feel somewhat responsible. But I do want your feedback. People are saying they're now having their kids, everything's videoed, everything's shared. That didn't really start for you until late elementary school. Yeah. And now here you are, 24, and I want parents to hear what that feels like and what you wish it was like and could be like for kids.
Yeah. I think as far as my personality goes, I really never enjoyed attention for things that I had accomplished. Like, I of course wanted to show my parents that, kids are like, putting on little plays, or they, make a funny poster or whatever, and parents want to show that to everyone. And I wanted to show my parents those things, but I really did not enjoy the experience of, like, even if we had other friends over, I didn't like for those people to be a part of that. Something about it just felt icky to me. I don't really know why.
Were you just making it for you?
Yeah, it was like a personal thing and something that I wanted to share with my family as like, oh, this is something I'm proud of. But I think it did feel like, especially when it came to things being posted on social media, or especially like having to pose for things, that was like the worst, because it's like you work on something because you want to do it and you're not thinking anyone else is going to see it except for your family. And I mean, it is. It's so vulnerable to like create something, especially as a kid when you're like in your prime creative time and you're just making stuff for yourself because it makes you happy and you want to see the feedback from your family. But I never wanted my grandparents to see it. I never wanted like our family friends to see it. And I don't know, it felt a little bit like being, I don't know, it felt like being some sort of like product that I never like signed up for. And I feel like the best way to describe it is just icky. And it did feel like a betrayal a little bit. And I think that it did put kind of a wedge between us
Well, two
for
things.
a while.
Between you and me, which say
Yeah.
a little bit about that.
I don't know. I think it felt like I was only doing things to perform. It all felt like performative.
Or, I mean, one of the things you said to me was that I was only really giving you all my attention when you had some sort of thing I could post about or
like
I
a
could share with
product.
everybody
And I think
else.
it's important to note Avery is not inherently a performer. Like that's not
Yeah.
a thing that
Right,
brings her
right.
joy or
Yeah, it's true.
she's
I do
ever
not
been
want-
trying to do.
Yeah, that's
Well,
so true.
And so, you know, we sit here at this phase of life, and when I talk about, I so want people to understand when I talk about losing the phone and I talk about having boundaries around your phone, especially if you are a parent, that it's because I can't get that time back. Like I know now, right? We're all grown up. I know what that did to you. You know what that did to you. And I think, oh, there was nothing I posted that would be worth that. Right? Nothing. But if any kid could possibly communicate about that, you did. Mm-hmm. You didn't like go into your little cocoon and be like, oh, I feel so betrayed by my mom. You were like, you betrayed me. And then I laughed and I posted about that.
I took a video of it. Check it out. That actually,
tips on how to deal with this kind of behavior.
I'm a marriage and family therapist, and so I'm always looking for new resources. But no, they're one of my favorite videos.
Even
that
when
we
you're
have.
the perfect mom, they feel betrayed.
So don't feel bad, moms.
They
Yeah.
humble us every day. I'm just kicking.
It's a video of you just punching mom. Yeah. But no, I have there's a video that I love. I don't know where it is. It's somewhere on our collective family
Missing.
cloud.
Right.
But it's a video of maybe we were at the beach or something. I can't distinctly remember, but I think it was the beach. And I think Dad and Avery and I were trying to kill a bee.
We were
And it
trying
was
to
this
get
whole
ready
thing.
to go to the beach.
Oh no, we were getting ready to go to the beach. Sorry,
we were-
kill a bee, go to the beach. They're kind of
No, that's in there. There was a bee.
Oh, there was also a bee.
Yeah.
So we
Okay.
were waiting for Mom we were ready to go to the beach, but Mom wasn't ready yet.
And why wasn't Mom ready? Well, first of all, we were all dealing with a bee also separately as
Because
a
my dad
completely
is
separate conflict.
terrified of bees, so like we were really tapping into his fear.
Oh my gosh. The
I
three of you
felt-
all want to be is around is about it's like a Laurel and Hardy skit. It's the most hysterical thing.
My favorite part of it, because I'm so egotistical, is
Yeah.
like I was like I think I was probably in 3rd grade and I was wearing a bathing suit that I thought I looked so cute in. So the whole video I'm like, look at me. Guys, do you see how cute my bathing suit is? While Dad's trying to swat at a bee.
With like his hat, he has his hat off, and he like looks so serious. You can tell that there's nothing funny about.
He's in a battle. He is in war, front line.
And I think was I filming? Was I the one filming
You must
it?
have been
you must have been
filming.
filming.
But yeah, off in the corner, we're like, all right, we're all ready to go to the beach, and you look over in the corner, and Mom's just sitting on her phone,
On the phone.
and it's so perfect at a picnic table, and we're like, hey, Mom, you ready to go?
And then you hear her go
She's like
talking on
like
the
a
phone.
caricature of a person who can't put their
Get off
phone
their
down.
phone. And that was actually talking on the phone.
Yeah.
Like that's not even scrolling, right? That's like the best thing you could be doing on the phone.
But
And-
it's just such a perfect encapsulation of
It
the
is.
role reversal.
Yeah, it really is.
That took
It
place
really
a couple
is.
years later.
Well, and then I wanted to say, you know, what I felt like I was coming back from years of healing what I had put between us, that sort of the phone and all that represented was between Avery and I. I have a different story with you, Brandon. But I also think it's important for you to talk about how that made you feel about your own creativity.
Yeah, I think it really did. It just made me not want to create anything anymore. And like if I did create something, I didn't want to show anyone because I didn't want people to know about it. I don't know. It felt like, yeah, those were my only choices. Like I have to just keep it to myself or the world is going to know about it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, which that used to be, people used to say, oh, honey, nobody cares about what you do. The whole world isn't seeing it. And now it's actually the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think, you know, adults are trying so hard to connect to kids, you know, like 12-year-olds. How do you connect to a 12-year-old? But if, you know, a bunch of people are seeing on Instagram, like, oh, you just wrote a new chapter in a book. Like, oh, I want to talk to you about your chapter. And that felt so like, it was so scary and uncomfortable for me because it was like you weren't supposed to read that, like you weren't
right. It's almost some version of reading your journal, except
yes, that's exactly how
it's
felt.
not being treated like it's your journal.
But like kids aren't meant to be on like the interview circuit for a product that they've just created. That's an adult thing. That's ridiculous.
Such a good point.
And you know what I had the thought of too is I wonder if it affected me more because you weren't doing that our whole life. Like, I don't even really remember things being, like, filmed in general.
Okay.
And so we did have this very close relationship where I was able to, you know, create things. I loved, like, singing all the time. And I remember sometimes you would record stuff. And that kind of made me feel good because it was like, oh, wow, you know, I get to hear myself sing. But nobody else was
It wasn't going
it.
out to the universe.
It was still for us.
I definitely am going, with your permission, we should put your little song at the end of this podcast.
That would be pretty sweet.
Yeah, I wonder how that is for kids now because
they don't know a difference.
So it might not make them feel quite as uncomfortable as it did for me during that time. Or they may not be aware that there's an option to not have that.
I mean, part of it, though, makes me think about the idea of, you know, like kid actors and child stars and people who have always been performers, people who have ended up on interview circuits and having to do publicity for things and be on camera all the time. And the way that beats the crap out of those kids, like most of them.
Yeah.
And how that's going to change, you know, the generation that has been raised from day one.
With
being the performer, but just on a smaller scale of everyone knows what you're doing. What do you want to tell people? What do you want to, and it's like, oh my, geez, Louise.
Doesn't John Bellion have a song like The Day Everybody Became Famous?
Shoot, I can't remember the name of it. Shoot, I can't remember.
That all of a sudden now we could all be famous, but yet there's nothing about fame anyone has ever said was like, oh, this is the life you want.
Yeah. And I also just think it's so, like, the term, like, using your kids for your feed is such a gnarly sentence.
I know.
Or phrase. Because, like, feed is like, I don't know, that's slop. It's slop.
It's for I mean, it definitely taps into, you know, we would call those, it's like the beauty pageant moms, right? You'd be like, it's this mom who's using their daughter to get their attention needs met. And that's, you know, one of the things I say about social media is that it takes, which obviously I have been a version of that because we all have those tendencies inside of us, and these platforms exploit our tendencies to exploit.
Right.
Like it just that's how they work. That's how they work. So what about you, Brian? What do you connect with? You know, I'm trying to think. I don't remember when I got my first smartphone. But I will tell people, I was always reading a book. I was always on the phone. I always had to have I was always journaling. I had to have some other form of interaction way before social media came out. Social media was just satisfying that at a much higher level. Mm-hmm. And so you had a mom without a phone for, I don't know, 10 years, 12 years?
Ish. Yeah, I remember.
Vein.
I mean, I remember playing games on like your BlackBerry back when you had one of them. I don't even know if you had a BlackBerry. You had something that
was just like its
own little phone. But I would play like Tetris or whatever on your phone. But like it never felt
consuming.
No, it never felt consuming. So you're just wondering what it was like beforehand?
So just understanding that there was a time that you have said before that you think your generation was the last to have a childhood. And a big part of that is because you have a mom. It's not just that the kids were handed phones. It's that the moms were handed phones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Then you had a season of time. So I'll tell you from my perspective. It was us in like the natural world. And then
we had sticks.
And what I say about reading books
fire.
or even talking on the phone is your ability to be interrupted from those, your ability to sort of have a scan of the environment and do that thing is, I call it lifeguard parenting.
Yeah.
You still have this foot in the real world. You don't get lost in a magazine article the way you get lost on TikTok. It's just not the same thing to your brain. And then there's the mom that's gone. She's not there anymore. I see her body. Every kid knows when their mom is not in the room, right? And then you have the phase. So then there was this phase where I had a phone and you didn't. And then there was the phase when you got a phone. And then there was a phone when you had a phone and I didn't. The world when you had a phone and I didn't. So kind of speak to any of those times as far as they were significant to you.
In terms of the difference between you having a phone and then both of us having a phone, I don't remember there being a super difference because I was so focused on just like, you were definitely holding me accountable all the time. I mean, me and my friends accountable. Anyone who came over to our house was like, all right. So the
because
GameCube has 30
like
minutes.
so many parents, I viewed it as it was fine for me. I didn't address any of my issues.
Well, but this was before this. I don't know if this was when you had a phone or before you had a phone, but I mean, it was definitely this thing where you were cognizant of. All right, I don't know if you became less cognizant once you got a phone. You know what I mean? I don't know if you weren't looking after us in the same way, but it was very much like, okay, yeah, you've done this. Now go outside and do whatever. And that was the rule. And so then we had to go outside and do whatever. But there just was such a massive difference, just referring to us being the last generation to have a childhood without a phone. I got my first phone when I was 13. My first phone was an iPhone 4, so it was a smartphone. But prior to that, it's a thing that can never be replaced because the knowledge of a phone now exists. You had to not have the knowledge that you even could access a phone in order to live that totally pure kind of childhood where all you had was you and your friends outside. And now that we have phones in our pockets and we're aware that that's an option, which is for our brains and for the most core animal part of ourselves, the easiest way to find a high, it is always going to be an option in our brains. And as long as it is an option in our brains, it takes up energy in our bodies because we have to think about that consciously as something we aren't going to choose. And then that's all this energy and time being spent on just not being on it and going somewhere else. And when you didn't have that, you just purely had your experience of the people you were with, and you weren't always looking for... You weren't trying to do something for a person who wasn't there.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Wow. So I had, when we were living at the lake and I was taking Schroeder for walks around, Schroeder was our beloved dog.
He's dead now.
On September 11th.
He died on 9/11. Not 2001.
The second saddest 9/11. And, but I remember...
By a long shot. I do want to say.
Well, losing your family pet's always a sad thing.
Yeah, it is.
When he was 18.
Walking him around the lake, he would get distracted by other dogs or by a squirrel or whatever. And if I was going in one direction and he wanted to go in that other direction, he was so strong. He was not a big dog, but he could pull. And so here I am trying to walk this way, and he's pulling the exact opposite, and it's taking every ounce of my strength to pull him in the direction that I want to go. That is the best physical experience of what it's like trying to not be on your phone.
It's the scene of, I don't know, have you guys seen Spider-Man 2?
Probably.
There's just a sequence where Peter Parker is trying to stop a train. And he just has to, like, he has webs on this side on a building and on this side on a building. And the train's about to go off the track, and he's on the front of the train trying to
keep it
train.
in. And that's why, so this podcast is called Lose the Phone. And the reason it is not that I think everyone should not have a smartphone. I don't know what the future is for that world. I know it's not this. I know we haven't found it yet, not the one that is going to take care of humans and get us to our next place. But the reason I call it lose the phone is because it is so much easier to do everything that you need to do when your phone is powered off and put away than it is to have your phone with you and ask yourself to do these higher level things. So losing the phone is not about not actually having it. It's about not having it with you and being fine, being great, thriving. You're not scared. You're not worried. You're not having an anxiety attack. You are not in that pulled place. You're making a choice. Do I want to be in my backyard right now with my group of friends, or do I want to be on my phone? But both of them in the same place is like, that's where you're dividing yourself constantly.
Yeah.
I mean, man, I'd be really curious to hear if there's any research, if there's research on this. I'm sure there is somewhere. But I recently learned about how your genetic makeup, like your actual genetic code, adapts to new modes of behavior when you take them on. And I'm wondering if... So I had a day without my phone last year where I walked to the park from my house. And that's a walk that I do all the time with my phone. And it's a great walk. It's a great park. But when I went to the park without my phone, it was a completely different experience of that walk. And I think it's just because my phone wasn't on me at all. I'm curious if having your phone on you actually
does something different.
Do something in just the coding of how you function that we've just gotten so used to. Because when I didn't have my phone, it was like I was in Narnia. It was crazy. I was walking around and it was like I could see every pattern on every tree and everyone was smiling and I was more confident. Like it was in my engagement with strangers. It was remarkable. Like it was the best day ever and I walked to the park. That was it.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
My Uncle Jeff was an emergency room surgeon when I was a kid, when I was growing up. So he was in that realm of profession that when he had days where he was on call, and that meant he had his beeper with him. So it could be like Thanksgiving, like, oh, Uncle Jeff is on call for Thanksgiving, so he had his beeper. And you know what that meant?
Emergency.
He was never fully with us.
Yeah.
He had to stay on, like the priority was the beeper. Because, but it was great. We could have Thanksgiving dinner, but it'd be like, oh, his beeper went off. And it's almost like we all live in that state of being on call when we have the phone present. We don't get that opportunity just to be like, and that,
So
yeah.
true.
yeah. So what were you going to say, Avery?
Well, can I say something
Sure,
really
yeah,
quickly on top of that? There is also a difference, though, even with the beeper. It's if the beeper goes off, and that's why I slid in and said emergency when you gave a different answer, which was always fun. But it's, you know exactly, it's like, oh, I'm needed. I am actually needed for something very specific because someone's in danger. And it's not that way with our phones.
Right,
it's,
right.
oh, someone texted me.
But do our
something
bodies
dumb.
think it is?
Exactly.
Okay.
Like our bodies think it's an emergency, but what's the point of putting your body in fight or flight and on call mode if there's a 95% chance it's not going to be an emergency?
Yeah. I think that that's so true because, like, I got called by a company to do an interview and I keep thinking about it. Like, oh, I need to make sure that I call them back. And I actually have, like, this anxious feeling around it. I'm not actually anxious about calling, or I'm not actually anxious about the interview, but it's like having something that I need to do. And it is so urgent and immediate. Like when it comes onto your phone, it's like, okay, I got to respond within the next couple of hours. And if I don't, then what? I don't know. But it's like,
yeah,
it does. It
constant.
feels very constant and stressful. And I also was thinking about, when it comes to phones and like what you were saying about having a whole different experience, just not having it on you. I haven't had this experience in a while, but it does happen every once in a while where like sometimes my phone will hurt me. And I don't know if you guys have had this experience, but like
when you hold it up and then it falls on your face.
Definitely.
Where like I will have my hand close to my phone. Like I won't be on my phone, but I will feel it. I'll be like, ooh, that hurts. Like I have to put my phone farther away because it actually, like, I physically feel my phone.
That happened to me when I didn't have a phone. So I didn't have a phone at all for 4 years. And when I would use anyone else's phone, it was so painful to that whole side of my face. I couldn't even talk for very long.
But we're probably just so numb to it at a certain
That's what
point.
I'd heard. Some people in the technology world told me that you develop that becomes your normal way of feeling, so you don't feel it. And they're like, Jenny, you haven't felt it, so you actually can
Whoa,
when that. It's technically radiation, which
Right
I never get into that side of it because it's so mind blowing. It's just so like I don't even know. I do know I don't like the way that I feel when it's near physically.
Yes.
And I power it off as much as possible. And I just started turning off our Wi-Fi at night.
Oh, that's great.
Just wondering, like, do I sleep better if there's not Wi-Fi in the house? Okay, but you both kind of alluded to this. People talk about taking social media breaks, but there's not a lot of people who have done this. And this is what I hope everybody's takeaway is from this podcast. But it is some kind of wonderful magic when you can have a detox day, a phone-free day. So I know both of you have done that at different points in your life. Tell, you said about a walk, but tell about what it's like to have a day with no phone.
It's a pretty wild experience. I feel like it's fascinating how it sounds so easy and then it's really not easy at all. Especially because this is how life was before we had phones. And I always think like, it'd be so easy for me just to turn off my phone for the day. But you get so used to a certain level of access to information and also just dopamine in general that it's like living on a different planet. From what I remember, the last time I did it was when I was still living at home. And so I did it with Mom, which I have never done it by myself before, which I think would be a whole different experience. But like suddenly everything became much less overwhelming. And it was like I didn't have enough things to do to fill my time. Like I had these 2 pairs of leggings that had holes in them that I had been meaning to like sew up, and I sewed them up. And I was like, well, what am I going to do next? And I think that's like the really big thing about my life right now. Like this is my first week in so long that I haven't had a job. And I am just shocked by how my days are going by so fast. Like yesterday went by insanely fast. I felt like I got nothing done. And I'm like, I have all these things that I have to get done. And I'm not working. I would have just been working that whole day. And I do think a huge part of it is the phones, even if you're not on social media. Because the last time I did the detox, I was not like very heavy on social media at all. That wasn't like a part of my day. But something about like being able to text people, even being able to research stuff or have a podcast on or an audiobook or whatever, you're not present anymore. You're on a different plane.
Your mind is somewhere different than your body is.
Yes. And so something about it really does raise it feels like you don't have enough time for anything. I mean, imagine how much time we spend just setting up our phone. Like even if we are not actively on our phone, if we're setting up a podcast or connecting our Bluetooth, I mean, if you add it all together, it's a big chunk of your week, you know?
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah, but it's a wild experience. It makes me really want to do it again, talking about it. But it's hard. It was really, really hard. Because you get so bored. And I haven't felt bored in years.
Well, it's like, you think you felt bored. But then it's like you get to the same way you get to like a rock bottom of depression or physical pain. You don't realize there's a rock bottom to boredom. Where it's like, oh my gosh, I'm doing nothing and I don't know what to do with myself. If I can't watch or read or consume something, then it actually starts to physically feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But
You're
it's like
staring at walls at a certain point.
Yeah, I remember, oh my gosh, I'll dive into my experience in a second. But yeah, there is the physical discomfort, but there is another, like you get to the other side of it where all of a sudden you're like, your brain finds something. It goes through it like bursts through the wall of boredom. And you're like, I want to write this. I need to write this thing.
Yeah.
And then you just start writing stuff.
Something about it makes you right.
Or you start,
It's true.
Or
It's
you start planning. You're like, well, now I know what I need to do with my next month if I want to get this project done, or if I want to redo my wardrobe. I'm going to do, and then like, it's just stuff that you never even knew you'd have a desire to do, but that's clearly in there because once you break through that wall, it's like, I have to do this.
Well,
it gets the same level of motivation to do it as you would have to check your phone.
And
because it's something.
It doesn't have anywhere to go.
I think it's actually really fascinating, like, especially on TikTok. I feel like culturally people are constantly looking for new ways to unlock new parts of themselves, and like, like shrooms and weed, whatever, all of these different things. Meditation is a great thing as well, where it's like, oh, we can tap into these true parts of ourselves. But I could really see it being a movement. It is like a drug in itself.
It is.
I mean, it's really lack of a drug, but we're just
That's
so
the
used
new
to
drug.
the drug.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the new drug.
But there's also this element too of like, you see all these people being like, how are we going to solve the problem? None of our students for the last 15 years are able to. We're passing kids out of school who can't read.
Right.
Right. The motor skills have gone down considerably.
Ridiculous. And it's like, man, well, what do we have to do? What money do we have to put in to fund the whatever? And how do we do what possibly could be a thing that changed in like the early 2010s? It's been, because COVID didn't really change it. COVID was bad, but like there's something else. And I can't figure, how do we throw more money at this thing? And it's like, try the free thing. Try a thing that is literally free, costs you $0, and will give you results probably within 4 months.
If not 4
less.
minutes.
Right.
Yeah, like within the academic year, you will see results.
Especially when it comes to kids, I think that's the thing that's so heartbreaking to me is like, okay, as adults, right, we can do this thing. We can be on this phone because we've already developed. Obviously, it's going to affect our brains in a lot of ways, but it's probably not going to affect the way that we like are able to use our hands. But the ways that kids learn how to use their hands and their body is through like physical play and balance and picking things up. And if the majority of your awake time is spent on an iPad and you haven't developed any of those skills yet, you're never going to develop them. Like in a preschool setting, it's pretty normal for there to be a couple kids that are like, oh yeah, they need to work on their like pincher grasp, their fine motor skills. And then you work on that just by providing it over and over again, So it's pretty maddening. It's really sad.
It's so annoying.
It's concerning.
Anyway,
well, real quick, before you dive into that, I want to say my very favorite thing I've ever made is on the front page of the Mediatox.net website, and it's how to start your detox. And I described the 7 phases of a media detox, and that was a map of what I discovered whenever I had you guys go off your phone. Wow. So it's based on what I saw with you, what I saw in myself, and then now what I've seen lots of other people practice. And I want to go through that as sort of the wrap up of the podcast and see if y'all have stories or experiences with each one.
Okay.
But go ahead. That's feeding to your detox
my detox
thing.
Experience. So I've had 2 separate detox experiences. One of them was a complete detox of anything fun or pleasurable that could bring life a sense of enjoyment.
A for real dopamine fast.
Yeah, dopamine fast, where I didn't even, like, obviously I couldn't be on my phone, but also I couldn't watch TV or movies. I couldn't be on a screen at all, and I also couldn't read. But I could write. That was the thing. I could write, I could go for walks, but I couldn't consume anything. And that was an insane experience. I remember that led to me, like, without that day, there's a relationship I wouldn't have started. There is an essay that I wouldn't have written. There is goals that I wouldn't have set for my next phase of life that were really instrumental in moving me from college into genuine adulthood. Like, it was a crazy day. Yeah, filled with moments like we were talking about earlier of multiple walls of hitting a physical boredom wall and feeling like I needed to get out of my body and then, you get to the other side. That happened like 4 times that day.
I think is actually your brain developing new neural pathways.
That would make sense.
I think
that's what it feels like.
I think that's the feeling is that's what's happening.
It's the same way. It's like when you're learning an instrument and you get to a point that you can't get past. You're like, wow, why can my hand not do this movement it needs to do? And then the next time you go in, you're like, whoa,
it can do it.
Oh, I can do that now.
Wow.
That's kind of what it feels like. I do remember making a log of all the behaviors, and this is probably creepy, of our apartment complex maintenance man.
Really?
Just because he was, I guess, fixing something at another apartment that was across the way from ours, and I didn't have anything else to do, so I kept a log of what went down in his life that day.
You'd be a good BC.
BCPA or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever the heck it is, whatever nonsense you do at work.
All those letters.
Yeah, exactly. But then my second one was just, as mentioned earlier, just being off my phone. And even that was just, it does this thing where it resets your body and your brain to want a book or a friend in the same way your brain wants your phone now. And it's so much more satisfying in the long run to have the book or the conversation with the friend than it is to do whatever the heck it is you do on your phone.
It's like you tap into what you really want. You tap into what you really need and what you really want. And once you tap into that, you realize that's the only thing that will help. So when we talk about the loneliness epidemic, and if you're really lonely, you just barely let yourself feel that feeling. You get on social media, you start to feel it. I feel connected with people. I know what's going on with them, whatever. It's like it scratches just enough of what you want to keep you from doing the hard thing to get the thing you really want. And then you're like, why am I so lonely? Well, because you didn't really get that longing fulfilled. You got that longing sort of satiated.
Yeah. I feel like one of the things that I really want to say, because I feel like I bring this up a lot when we have conversations about it, but with phones, a lot of times for me, one of the hardest things is feeling alone when I don't have my phone. Like when you're in groups of people who are on their phones or with I don't really experience it with my family, which is great. But I guess sometimes, sometimes people are doing stuff on their phones and then you're like, oh, I guess I'll just get on my phone.
Well, you always get on to me about when you'll ask me a question or you'll say something to me and the way that I respond will make you go, you're not listening to me.
Yeah, because Brandon will be like, yeah. There's a specific.
And it'll be the wrong. Yeah, there's an. It's the voice. Everyone has it.
Right.
Yeah.
But it is whatever the voice is. That's I'm gone.
But I want you to think that I'm here. I want to get credit for being here.
Exactly.
There was a little girl who actually called me
so
out on that the other day when I was really distracted. I was trying to input data, and she was like, "Why do you keep just repeating everything I'm saying?" And I was like, "Good question." I didn't even know I was repeating everything you were saying.
BCBARBT.
So weird. But one of the things that I was going through a period where I deleted my social media, but all of my roommates, were still on social media and still on their phones. And so I was like, my thing that I'm going to do when my roommates get on their phone is I'm going to do Sudoku. And I was like, I have my Sudoku book. I'm going to do that whenever my friends do that. So I did it one time. And then I didn't get to have the Sudoku book anymore because everybody else was using my Sudoku book. It was crazy contagious. Everybody started buying Sudoku books. We had 3 different Sudoku books in the apartment. And I was shocked because I thought that I was just doing this for myself. I guess I'll try to give myself something to do so I'm not tempted to get my phone. But the truth is nobody wants to be on their phone. Right. And it's just as contagious to not be on your phone as it is to be on it.
It really is. As you guys know, no one's on their phone around me anymore. Hardly ever. That's just not.
Because they'll get a swat.
Right, exactly. It's the punishment, the consequence. Right, definitely. Chores.
Every time I go to Jenny's house, I empty her dishwasher.
Exactly. Speaking of which, the dishwasher does need emptying right now, kids. So we'll go through these 7 phases of Mediatox, but then before we go into this, I want to know, what has it been like for you guys since I haven't had a phone? What was that transition like? Because most of the last 10 years, I haven't had a phone, and you all have. Not really have. I think there's a portion of time Brandon got a dumb phone, and we both had dumb phones. But for the most part, what has that been like for you?
Amazing. It was the best. Like, I remember the year that you gave it up, it was like, obviously you weren't working as well, so that contributed to you not having, we were like your main focus, but I felt it. It was like, oh, my mom is here for me. Like, you were so in tune with everything that was going on with me and like helping me problem solve all of my friend issues. Like, I felt like I wasn't in it alone anymore.
And was that when you had gone to homeschool?
No, this was when we were still at BA.
Okay.
Yeah,
The apartment.
freshman year.
The apartment.
Yeah.
So it was your junior year.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I mean, I just remember that year in general being so special. I'm glad that we were only in that apartment for 1 year because it kind of marked it very specifically as the year that all these things happened. But I just remember everything was good that year. Like, friends were great. Our family like unlocked. Like, I don't know what happened, but it was like we became the place where everyone wanted to be all the time.
Which
and
was
we were
really
in this
funny.
tiny cramped apartment. Like,
and all of y'all's friends had these like
millions of
mansions
dollars.
with pools and country clubs. And
We
had this
hosted like a huge Christmas party
for like the
a
entire
bunch of
ninth grade
people
girl,
from
all
my
the ninth grade
class,
girls.
Which we had a huge house before that. I think it's hilarious but something about being in the apartment, probably the phone thing was a huge deal. And also maybe you had the resources for that too. Like,
it was. I mean, this is again why it's my calling and why I want to keep talking about it, because it was the first time I got to live the dream of being a mom. Mm-hmm. Like, when you have kids, it's like, I want to be a mom. It's the best thing. Mm-hmm. It's the best thing in the whole world. But that was the very first time. Now, before smartphones existed, I kind of by default had to be present with you all. Mm-hmm. But that was the first time I had made the choice. I am going to be 100% present with my kids.
Yeah.
Whatever they need, whatever they want, this is all I care about. And it changed everything. It changed everything.
It made the space that you occupied became the space that it was the place everyone wanted to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was amazing.
And I kind of, if you will take a minute specifically to tell moms how important they are in this. Like, I think moms really feel like they have lost their authority and position with their kids, like almost like their phone is the kid's mom. Like, that's what's really in charge. And then the mom's over here trying to figure out what to do about that. Can you say something to the moms out here that could be listening about what it means for them to be present with their kids?
I think that it is the difference between, I think that when your kids are in middle school and high school, you might think like, oh, their friends are the most important thing for them. Like, oh, I just need to, give them some space, let them have their time to grow. And I think that your friends change. Everything changes throughout that entire time period. And obviously for the rest of your life, everything changes. But you're like the one consistent thing. And I think that really just being there for them and like putting yourself into all of the things that they're really worried about and they really care about and actually care makes such a difference, because kids can tell when, the mom is just there for the gossip or whatever. Like, oh yeah, what's the stupid thing that's going on in your life? But like, you guys are so important. You're the most important and will be for the rest of your kid's life. Like, you only get one mom.
If you are a mom, making the decision to be present for your kid and get off your phone and create boundaries around their phones, it is the difference between living a good life and a miserable life. It is the number one thing, the number one difference between a good life, not just a life that's has good things, and one that's like a great life, not a life that doesn't have difficulty.
Right.
But yeah, and a life that just kind of sucks. Mm-hmm. Like, I know so many people who just are miserable all the time, and I don't think they have to be. It is also a thing that when I was a junior in high school and you had, well, the thing is, when our house didn't have phones, it didn't matter. I wasn't really upset about. There were moments where I'd be like, I just want to sit here and be on my phone because I was stressed about something and in high school. But it's so worth it to tell your kids, even if they're mad at you or even if they're mad at you.
And what's interesting is my experience for myself, I made these choices to be present with you. I can't remember one single time since that moment when I have been available and present with you and you have been on your phone.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
My sense is if parents are available and present, they won't have to worry about their kids' phone habits so much.
Yeah, I think that is true because I agree with Brandon. Like, I remember it being annoying when you would tell us to get off of our phone because it was like, everybody does this. Just let me have like 10 minutes. But I think a huge difference between, you know, maybe parents being like, get off your phone, and then the parent leaves and goes to another room is like you were there. You were like the replacement behavior, you know? Like you were there for us to talk to about stuff and like really get what we were wanting out of our phones, which maybe is something that's missing, is like realizing that there has to be a person on the other end that's replacing the phone. You don't want to just take away the phone and then your kids by themselves again.
Well, and what I remember about those last years when you guys were at home is that almost all of our downtime was spent you realizing something you needed and you needed my help getting it. Mm-hmm. So there was always something like, wait, I was supposed to make this for whatever. Oh my gosh, I forgot to get my spelling book from whatever. Oh my gosh, I've got to get a suitcase. We're going out of town tomorrow. Like I remember it being like as soon as your phone went down, you realized there was a problem that needed solving, and it was outside of your resources to get it by yourself. You had to have my help to make that happen. So it wasn't like we were just playing board games, which would have been wonderful and fun, and we have done a lot of that over the years. But especially when you were in high school, I could not believe, I try to tell parents this all the time, they needed me more than they ever needed me outside of infancy. Mm-hmm. It was so we had tons to do. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like we're like, what are we going to talk about?
Right. Yeah.
And there's a part of me that wonders, like, was that time delayed because of the time that we were on our phones in between that? Like, should that time have been like our preteen, like
interesting?
Maybe,
you know what I mean?
Because we'd all lost sort of this handful of years. Boy, we got it just in time, but I did feel like y'all were developing some deeper level thinking skills during that time. There was this time where like school was getting harder. It was getting harder than something y'all could just do on the fly. And I thought y'all were just going to need me less and less the older that you got. And all of a sudden you weren't really showing up. You're both super, super smart. You're both great students, but you were struggling. Mm-hmm. You weren't doing well. You were stressed out all the time. Of course, somebody's always hurting somebody's feelings in middle school and high school, right? So there's lots of crying. And that's when I had that first, like, oh my gosh, I fixed things. I'm working on my relationship with my phone. Mm-hmm. What's going on with my kids? Because we had such good boundaries about it. I didn't even think to address it with you all.
Can I say something else? There is when people look back at their childhood and their adolescence, that's a time that I think is most strongly associated for people with nostalgia, with the feeling of nostalgia. And there are so many people I know who connect their predominant nostalgic feelings to video games and movies and social media. And if you can, and nostalgia is so powerful. It's so powerful. It's home. Nostalgia is home. And so if you put yourself and your kids in a situation where what your kids remember when they feel nostalgia is you and not a device or a screen, that sets them up to want that as home, not a screen as home.
That's really
They're looking
good.
for a relationship as home.
Yeah.
When, all during this time, I had the idea of paying you guys to not be on your phone. So there was that one summer you both needed jobs, you both needed money. And I was like, hey, if I pay you the amount you would get at a part-time job, I think we were at the lake house for 3 weeks. If I pay you as if you're working for me and you just aren't on your phone, will y'all do that? Because I was just longing for what I want moms to understand in particular, or parents. When I saw what was happening to me when I wasn't on my phone, I wanted you all. I felt like I was getting my childhood back. And like when I was watching you guys in my traps, I wanted you to feel the type of freedom and breakthroughs that I had. And I also didn't want it to feel like a consequence, like you were being punished and your phones were being taken away.
Right.
And I knew if you have phone free time, it would be the most valuable thing in the world to both of us, to all of us. So I paid you. And this is the process of what I noticed happened. So when the phones would get to the lake house, phones would be taken away. The first phase was always freak out. You would just freak out. Do you remember that? Anxious, panicked. I don't know, like that sort of like.
I definitely just remember being like annoyed.
Yeah.
I was just annoyed.
Yeah. Like
I agree.
I can't believe I'm not allowed to do this. All my other friends are allowed to do this. Why can't I just be
There's
on my
a little
phone?
kick up, right?
Yeah.
There's a little.
Yeah.
Well, and it was already really annoying to not be with our friends. Like we were already a little pissed that we were at the lake house,
was so
not
isolated.
with our friends. And so then you're feeling like you're missing out on all this stuff, but then you can't even stay connected. I think there was a part of me too that was like worried I was gonna like lose friends because I wasn't able to like communicate with them. I don't know. I think that was there was fear. There was a lot of fear around it.
Yeah, which is why nomophobia is the fear without a phone, right? So the fear of being without a phone could have to do with a lot of things. And in this phase, it's like I'm missing out, right?
Right. People are going to forget about me if I don't communicate with them for 3 weeks.
Immediately, right?
Yeah.
The second one is feeling everything. Like that's when you'd start crying. That's when you'd start being angry about things. Like all of a sudden realize there were all these feelings that had been deferred
Wow.
to this moment. Do y'all remember having that experience?
I do remember sobbing a lot at the apartment. I mean, at the lake house.
I'm sure that I definitely did do things of that nature, but I feel like most of my kind of processing of those feelings was just like I'd go in and I'd go sit down and just like look at the lake and just like not talk for a while.
Wow.
I think that was my
How you
that was
worked
my
through it.
main thing that was letting feelings out. But yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't even have to go back to Ben to recognize that that's a feeling I get when I am off my phone for enough of an amount of time.
Well, I was
like my feelings, your feelings come up.
Yeah.
And you're like,
I was thinking
oh
about
gosh, now
and,
it's stuck.
Right. And realizing how much the phone keeps you from, like when you first breathe in the feeling, and I'm thinking, of course you were on your phone so much of yesterday.
Right.
It's your first day without a job. Do you really want to feel
No,
that
I was
feeling?
very
Right.
scared yesterday.
Right.
Yeah.
So like cover. So if
Yeah.
you don't get on your phone, you actually have to feel how scared you are of not having a
Yes.
job and what's coming next, right?
Yes.
So then it's like, oh. And then y'all would crash. You would sleep so much. Lots of crying, lots of yelling. I'm really worried about this. I've got to do this. Like almost like everything was just coming to you at one time. And then it was just like, it was like watching a baby, like cry. And you're like, they're about to fall asleep. And then that
Wow.
I definitely remember getting some of the best nights, like sleeps where the sleep feels long and also you didn't dream and also you didn't wake up once in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Just the best thing ever.
yeah.
That is the best.
And then when you are woken up in the morning, it's like you died.
The next one was eat. Like you would start being like, I'm so hungry. I'm so thirsty. I've got to take a shower right now. Like it was this like complete connection to, okay, I like, the bear coming out of hibernation. Like, come on. Like I've got to.
I feel like that was when both of us started workout routines.
Oh,
also.
Yes,
yeah,
we're
that's
almost
a good
there.
point.
I associate so
but
much
you're
of being
right.
at the lake house with working
Yes,
out.
yes.
Me too.
Well, yeah, and like the phases of grief, these come in waves. You might actually be starving before you pass out. You might actually feel so much sadness, and then eat. So the next one was you just start getting really connected to your body. Like you knew what your body needed it, and it needed it now. Almost like you would wake up to a deficiency. The next one was clean. You both always cleaned.
That's funny.
Right? Like I'm going to clean out my backpack. I'm going to clean up my room.
Wow. I do remember doing a lot of cleaning.
no, this is odd. Like, yeah, because you're saying all of this applying it to the lake house, but like I have very direct experience of all of these things very recently. Yeah, absolutely.
That's crazy.
Just realizing I just have ants all over the floor of my room.
Right,
Where did
right.
they come from?
Yeah.
It's not their house.
Every group of people I've worked with, from fourth graders to
beautiful
CEOs
house.
of major corporations, always put two things on their list of what they do if they didn't have the internet. And one is sleep, and the second is clean their room.
Wow. I slept 14 hours 2 nights ago.
Nice.
Once your job was done?
Yeah. And then I like went to bed at 9:30, and then I woke up. I was like, it's probably
baby.
like 8, you know, which is still a long night's sleep. It was 11:30.
Oh,
and I was
baby.
like, oh,
I'm so happy.
must have needed that.
You so have. You so have. And then this is when you mentioned the workout routines. You would start running, reading, playing. Like all of a sudden you would have this like, oh my gosh, I've been meaning to read this book. This was my favorite book. Wait, I think I need to learn to play the guitar. I would like, and what I say here is you create instead of consume. Like it comes back to you what is play in this form of your life
We worked
look
out
like.
so much.
Yeah, all the
I
time.
just remember being like exhausted at the end of the day.
Because you've got to do something. And then my favorite, of course, which is very hard to wait long enough for this breakthrough, is you start dreaming again. You start realizing, wait, I could do this. Wait, if I worked on this, someday I could become this. Or wait, I just realized I've always wanted to, fill in the blank. Wow.
Yeah, that was the point I hit at the end of my dopamine fast.
I
In
know.
my
I thought
journal.
it was so cool that you kind of said these.
Yeah, it was the final breakthrough. It was, what do I want my life to look like?
Yeah.
So
And
it's like you start off with feeling the extreme discomfort and pushing through that, and then you kind of get to your needs. You like are tapping back into yourself and like all the things that you need to continue functioning, and then you finally get to the end, which is like being
now that I
excited
have
about
what I need,
future and-
which all three of us are very obsessed with potential. Like I always say, the reason I do this work is because I'm obsessed with human potential. But in order to reach human potential, you have to meet human needs. It's like having your gas in your gas tank. Your car cannot drive without gas. So your basic needs are that gas in your car. You're not going anywhere, right? Unless you have the gas. Once you have the gas in your car, you're like, where do I want to go? Now I can make some decisions beyond this, but so much of our phone life actually keeps us from getting the basic needs met, which means we never get to that place of going, where we want to go. Okay. Is there anything else y'all want to say? Parting words?
I don't think so. I'm feeling very inspired though.
Are you?
I
Yeah,
am.
come on now.
I'm feeling really inspired.
Well, tell
Got a
me
bowl
about
of
that.
blueberries in front of you.
Yeah.
I got a bowl of blueberries. I think I'm at this point in my life where I'm feeling very uncertain about what my next steps are going to be. And I'm feeling a lot of fear. Like everything is very fear centered. And it's everything. Like I haven't felt this way in a little while. And I think maybe it's having a job also really distracts you from a lot of your
does.
feelings.
It makes you money. And you don't feel your feelings.
But it is
Even better than a phone.
you're so busy that you're not really thinking about anything else. And so I've been very overwhelmed with all of the things that I need to do, even not job related. And so I think I am feeling very excited about the idea. I don't know. I think once you get so into the routine of doing something, I know logically that my phone and social media isn't good for me, but I think it's especially important when you're not working because it is very easy for that to become like a huge part of your day. And even if it's not a huge part of your day, like I said, it really impacts your whole day when you've started off your day like that. So I think I'm feeling really excited because I'm not going to have a job for the next 4 days. I feel like this is a really good opportunity for me to I can just delete everything. Like, when else am I going to have that opportunity to not have to have my phone
reset.
on me and
Reset.
yeah, do a little reset. I think
That's
that'd
pretty
be really
exciting.
good.
That's really exciting.
Feeling excited. And then maybe I can convince my boyfriend too. He will be very easily convinced because he also doesn't like his phone.
Well, and it's the Sudoku effect.
Yeah, right? It's contagious.
Man, but also if you're just in a cabin, I mean, who
Right?
needs a phone in a
Exactly.
cabin in the woods?
A little cabin in the woods.
No one.
Right? We'll just need it for maps. and then we can enjoy the rest of the time.
I don't even know what I am feeling at the end of all of this. I'm just glad that we finally are recording this episode and talking about all of this. I just like talking to you guys, and I'm just so grateful for both of you. I think you're just both such good, intelligent, helpful people for others to hear from, and I'm so glad that this platform now exists.
I know.
I'm so excited.
Well, I feel like this has truly been our life's work. Like, we have poured years and years and years into navigating what does it mean to be a family? What does it mean to have a relationship with yourself, with your life? Like, we've been through this together when you lived at home and when you haven't lived at home. And I know we've learned some things that I feel like could really, really, really help people, because we got the opportunity to put this stuff into practice. And one of the things I want to make a big deal of on this podcast is we're not sitting here talking about all the problems and why it's so terrible. I really want to be having conversations with people who are implementing these changes into their lives and seeing the benefits of it, but also, why is it hard? You know, why isn't everybody just doing it if it's so great today? And it's a process, and it's something all three of us have decided is important enough for us to keep reassessing. And as new technology comes out, I'm so curious how my relationship with technology is going to change with ChatGPT and Grok. Like, that's already been such a big deal. So it's always going to be evolving.
I did want to say, I think the number one hurdle right now for people, I know this is the end of the podcast, so whatever.
We'll probably have y'all back. You know, y'all seem like kind of special guests. So,
but the number one hurdle, it seems to me, and certainly for me in terms of getting rid of a phone, was when I switched over to a dumb phone. The things that were the basic functions of a phone did not work well.
Right.
Like, right. It was like, yes, this is awesome. I don't have to worry about everyone having my number and being on being on all of these apps and getting my emails through my phone or all of that. But I can't send a text without it autocorrecting 4 words after I've sent the text. Like, I've already looked at it and seen that it's correct, and then I send it, and now my boss has received a text that I meant to send to, like, my friends.
Right. No, you're right. The technology that the not big tech technology is not caught up yet. Has not caught up yet. Well, I love you both so much. Thank you for being here. Thank you you are and always have been my very best teachers. I am and would be nothing without you. Like, I feel like I was born when you guys were. I love you both.
I love you guys.
Love you too, Mama. And also you, Avery.
I love you, brother.
I wanna keep Tom forever. He's gonna miss me forever. I don't wanna miss Tom. He's gonna miss me. I'm gonna miss him, but not